What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Cody here, joining me, my friend from StampyBlue.com, Andrew Thomason. Andrew, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Plenty of things to talk about this time of the year with free agency kind of wrapping up here soon, and the NFL draft just around the corner. So there's lots of rumors floating around, lots of things to be discussed certainly. And with the Colts, as we both know, there's never a dull moment. So
Never, even though it's crazy, even though they technically have only signed one guy, there's still been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation around the team. They've been linked to a few players, and we're going to talk about one of the players that they've been linked to really recently. Actually, I think it was yesterday. So Pat Leonard of New York Daily News, he said that the Indianapolis Colts were among a few teams that were interested in trading for New York Giants cornerback James Bradberry. Now, Bradberry was a 2016 second-round pick of the Carolina Panthers. He's 6'1", nearly 215. He's got 33-inch arms. He's the type of cornerback, Andrew, that you look at, and you look at this, Gus Bradley, Chris Ballard type of mold for a cornerback. It seems like he fits, at least on paper, exactly what the Colts are wanting to do.
exactly right. And you look at the tenure of Chris Ballard, right? And the type of corners that he usually goes after. Everything you just described is exactly what he looks for, I believe, in a starting corner. And I think it's certainly a need. Maybe not as big of a need as some of their other positions, but you look at Rocky Sid not being with Las Vegas, coming over in that trade for Yannick Ngakoue, and now you have a hole there. Sure, you brought in Brandon Faison, who was with Gus Bradley in Las Vegas last year, but I mean, are you comfortable with him stepping in as a full-time starter, given his sort of rotational role with Vegas last year? I'm not certain of that. I guess we'll have to just kind of wait and see what the Colts end up doing there. But James Bradberry, I mean, you said it, certainly an intriguing name. Had 4 interceptions with the Giants last year. Has been quietly, I think, one of the better corners in the game. I don't think he's necessarily up there with Jalen Ramsey or some of these other top tier guys, but Bradberry is certainly, I think, I'll put it this way: he would automatically, I think, be the Colts' number one corner. You have Isaiah Rodgers, who took a lot of steps in the right direction last year, played really well when called upon. Kenny Moore, obviously one of the more talented and certainly one of the best slot corners in the game. And then you have, as of right now, Brandon Faison on the outside. They did also bring back Marvell Tell, which is interesting. I think, again, we're talking about that mold, right? What Chris Ballard usually looks for in a corner. Marvell Tell, I think he's 6'2", 215, 220. So he fits that mold, that bill, right? But he also hasn't played football in a year. So, I mean, are you going to count on a guy in Faison, like I said, who had limited reps with Vegas last year, and a guy in Tell, who you like, obviously, because you drafted, but hasn't played within a year? I think you're kind of doing your defense, who had quite the year in 2021, a disservice if you don't address the cornerback position in some form.
Yeah, I mean, last year, the Colts they're going to be, probably losing two of their top corners in Xavier Rhodes, and you mentioned Rock, who's in Vegas now. So, the Colts rolled with four corners at times. Like, they need that depth, especially with the parity of the NFL, right? Like, we know that, I feel like corner especially, it's like corner, offensive line are two, and maybe even defensive line you could throw in there. There are positions that I feel like you almost need to add every offseason. You need to add a couple pieces. And, yeah, you're right. Are you comfortable with Brandon Faison being your starter? But James Bradberry was a Pro Bowler in 2020, right? He's one of those guys that he's still fairly young. He's 28 years old. He's had some experience playing at a high level, and it seems like it'd be a perfect match overall for what the Colts want to do. And then I kind of look at it, Andrew. I mean, what other positions on this defense would you say that you really, really need to address? And if you have two guys who have been Pro Bowlers in Bradberry and also in Kenny Moore, I mean, that's looking pretty good, especially with Isaiah Rodgers on the other side, who we all think, I think, is an ascending player in this league. I mean, your corner room's looking pretty good at that point.
Oh, certainly. And the only other player I can think of, or other need within the secondary, is safety depth. And we know that there have been some rumors as well with the Colts being drawn to Tyrann Mathieu, who is, as we've talked about, in private conversations and through on, Twitter and other social media platforms, would be an exceptional add to this defense as well, given his pedigree and his resume. So, you mentioned it, Bradberry, a Pro Bowl corner, and as we said already, he fits the mold of what Chris Ballard and the Colts look for. And the other thing too is take a look at the receivers that the Colts are playing this upcoming season. I mean, look at the AFC West alone: Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Tim Patrick with the Chiefs. It's McCall Hardman, Travis Kelce. I mean, obviously he's more of a tight end, but he can line up. I mean, he can line up anywhere. We know that he's such a dynamic weapon. I mean, the Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, you have Pro Bowl caliber, all pro receivers that the Colts are going to have to face this season. And you're going to want to be prepared. And certainly trading for Ngakoue, gives that boost to the pass rush, as I've talked about before, as you've mentioned, and so many others. Those two things sort of go hand in hand. So that will help without question, but you also have to have the necessary pieces to be able to keep up on the back end as well. And right now, I like where this Colts cornerback room is at. I don't love where it's at. And I think that, to me, is the difference. And getting a guy like James Bradberry, who's proven, you said he's a Pro Bowler, he's got the stats to go along with the kind of years that he's had with the Giants, and I believe with Carolina as well. He would certainly be quite the addition for this Colts defense.
Yeah, and it's reported that the Giants are seeking a third-day pick, so a late-round pick for Bradberry. I mean, I think for the Colts standpoint, the only hesitation you would have is that contract, right? Because it is a decent-sized contract for James Bradberry, but in terms of the draft compensation the Colts would have to give up, it's really not that bad.
No, not at all. And the Colts can afford it. They're going to have, I think, close to $80 million in cap space next offseason. I mean, obviously, that's a little ways away, and there's maybe a couple of extensions that are looming, Quentin Nelson namely, but that may change. But you look at the capital that they've had, or pardon me, the cap space that they've had this year, I think they still have close to 26 million with the Matt Ryan deal that I believe they restructured for the next couple of seasons. And then, like I said, you have money going into next season as well. So they've got the funds to go out and get a guy like James Bradberry. Now it's just a matter of if Chris Ballard and Gus Bradley and Ron Miles, who's the new defensive backs coach, think Bradberry is a good fit for this scheme.
Yep, absolutely. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think this would be a good trade for the Colts to go try to acquire James Bradberry? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.